Rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 13th Planning Board meeting. First on the agenda is Hamlet of Carmel, 650 Stoneleigh Avenue, for a public hearing. Mike, I believe you had some comments?
I did. At the last meeting, I asked for a C of O schedule so that they can get COs as the project is progressing, so they don't have to wait till the end to get all their COs at once. A CO schedule was submitted, but I think I should meet with Jeff to discuss this. In order to get COs for, just say, the first 10 units, you would need 3,000 square feet of recreation space. And we need to make sure the recreation space adds up and all the other code requirements are in there. So just something that we need to touch up a little. It's fine, but we need to make sure that everything's going to add up correctly. I already spoke to Jeff about it and explained to him what it was, so there's no problem. We'll get this straightened out.
Great, thank you. Rich?
Just some minor comments, but we're moving forward. The applicant has provided all the information we need. They are committed to meeting with the town board to lower the previously identified out-of-district connection flows and allotments, so that's something they're going to do. They have noted all the general comments and permits that are needed. They've submitted the stormwater pollution prevention plan to the DEP, so we're just waiting for review on that. They've done the traffic study. They submitted the information to the Putnam County Department of Highway and Facilities. They will supply a stormwater maintenance agreement, and they will provide an performance bond and engineering fee. They've indicated that. So they're good to go engineering-wise.
Thank you. And Pat?
And Mr. Chairman, we have no further planning issues on this, and if you remember at the last meeting, we resolved the outstanding seeker issues with respect to the materials that they submitted for you. So from my perspective, we're also good to go. It's on this evening for public hearing.
And as a reminder for everyone on the board, last meeting we spoke, it's been a while since the last meeting, right? We spoke about potentially a traffic circle is planned for that Stoneleigh Avenue area, as well as we've always had some concerns with capacity of Water District 2, but underneath this proposal it comes down almost 30,000 gallons, so I think that's a positive also. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to be heard on this?
Mr. Chairman, being there's no comment from the public, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then Pat, you'll prepare a resolution?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Nice talking to you, Ken. Thank you.
Best meeting
By the
ever.
way, thank you. Happy New Year. We were funded. We received the necessary funding for the 75 mixed income units. Very difficult to do first time around, but week before Christmas, we got the good news. So it's all ahead full. We're looking forward to it. Thank you so much. We'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thanks for the thorough package, Jeff. Ken, thanks for a nice job.
Thank you.
And Jeff, you'll speak with Mike and close on that, right?
Right, and Jeff, I'll need the performance bond numbers to get included into the resolution, please.
We take cash too, Ken.
Next on the agenda is Mayra and Sanjay, 10 Veshy Lane. Mike, you did have a couple comments.
Yeah, the applicant's here to complete a conversion of a one-family dwelling into a commercial office building. Previous architect engineer got final approval, however, never got the map signed and completed the process. All the necessary variances were granted by the ZBA and are noted on the plat. I have no zoning comments for this submission.
And Rich.
Just two minor comments. The application, as Mike described, office previously approved by planning board. I recommend that the planning board attorney confirm legality of the right-of-way providing access to the site. And I did a site visit. The drawing needs to reference the solar panels located on the site. There's a bunch of solar panels where the shed used to be, so
I saw that, yeah.
And they need a permit for them, too. I'm sorry to interrupt.
that's all right,
Rich.
yeah, I'm done.
If they didn't get one, make sure they get one, but I haven't given any on the floor.
Okay, no problem.
And Pat, I don't believe you had any comments.
Same issue was the right-of-way and just Joe reviewing that documentation.
Joe, did you get a chance to?
I did, and he's fine.
Okay.
The right-of-way is referenced on the deed to the property. I'll take a look at the two deeds that created the right-of-way, but I'm okay with it. There's 2 points of access. There's one off of Vesey, and then there's the other off of Bucks Hollow. The one off of Bucks Hollow was the one that I looked at.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the board? Do we have a motion to schedule a public hearing?
Yes, public hearing's the next step.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chairman, can we also have the resolution at that time?
Barring that the solar panels are resolved.
Yeah, I'll
If
get that
everything's
resolved.
taken care of with the solar panels,
I will take care of that.
that sounds reasonable. We've looked at this quite a bit,
Yes.
all right?
Oh, thank you very much. Happy New Year. Let's hope it's a healthy one.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Suez has asked that they do also a presentation on the board behind us. They have a PowerPoint presentation. I didn't think it was a problem. They also have boards, so they can probably do both, but I just wanted to let you know that they did ask that request. I guess we could set it up there, but
Or, yeah,
Right.
both places.
you just turn around.
Can we get them on both boards, or just?
I think I only have the remote
That's
for the
fine.
one, but I might be able to do
No, no,
both.
Rich, we can.
We could do the
move
hard
around.
wire there.
Yeah, no, we can move around.
No, we can get it set up there. It'll take a
No,
couple
no,
minutes,
no,
so.
no, let's do it now. I think that's good.
I can see.
I'm gonna go sit in New York, I'm gonna sit right up there.
Take your microphone with you, and then you'll be able to make comments if you have to.
So I'll
Bob, all
turn
you do
it,
is sit on the other side.
I'll turn it over to Suez.
We have want to go through comments first.
I think we need a quick minute to set up.
Okay.
This memo.
Craig, I'll rent you a spot over here for buck $2.98.
Movie time?
Yes.
One pop.
Actually, they can start from here, and that's the architecture rendering, so. You're not doing the whole thing? No, sir, John. I thought they were doing the whole thing there, right? So they're starting from the podium.
Okay. So we'll present the architecture when we're ready for it.
Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
I was anticipating it.
Should we begin?
No, we're gonna go through the comments from our consultants. Mike, you had, I believe everyone's had some comments on this. Mike?
Yeah, a use variance is not required for the private utility. The ZBA interpreted that the private and public utilities are permitted in the town of Carmel. Provided detail of the buffer, code 15637 requires, and it goes through the whole thing. The building is extremely close to the road, and Kirk Lake is to the rear of the building. We're on London Bridge first, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure I have the right one. And Kirk Lake is to the rear of the building. An enhanced buffer should be provided towards Brook Avenue, as the building is right off the road, approximately 33 feet. Referral to the ECB Fire Department and Putnam County Department of Health are required by code. Provide lot depth line. The variance may be required. I couldn't figure out exactly where your lot depth line should have been. And you do need a variance for lot area and front yard.
Thanks, Mike. Rich?
So the applicant has noted the general referrals for DEC, DOH, DEP, ECB, and Mahopac Fire Department. They've noted that there are permits required from the DEC for stormwater and wetlands, Putnam County DOH for well and treatment system, and the ECB for wetlands. The applicant has provided a stormwater pollution prevention plan, which is currently under review. They've provided a grading plan, The applicant, the amount of fill, if any, being brought in should be provided. A note should be added to the drawing that all fill brought to the site must be certified by New York State DEC regulations. The applicant has provided site distances, but they need to provide all the calculations for it. They need to provide a driveway profile. They have noted the requirement for public improvements and the associated engineering fee performance bond. They will need to provide that information. There's about 5 detailed comments. The drawing identifies a retaining wall. Top and bottom elevation should be provided. All walls greater than 5 feet need to be designed and signed off by a structural engineer. It's unclear if additional utilities are being installed underground, and this is going to be for all the various pieces. They have noted that electrical utilities would be extended underground. So on some of the other sites, it's like, well, we're going to put them underground just for this building, whether they're coming in overhead or not. That just needs to be clarified on all the drawings, but in this specific one, they need to provide some additional information with stormwater. So that's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
So, Rich, for everyone's benefit of those watching from TV, can you explain why we're here? All right, meaning that the water quality standards went from 80 parts per trillion to...
So I'm sure that the folks from Suez will do that, but yes, so the reason why Suez is here is that they have to upgrade their particular water treatment system to account for PFOAs and PFAS. They're considered forever chemicals. The New York State Department of Health, in their infinite wisdom, I say that sarcastically, lowered the detection limit or the monitoring limit, the MCL, to 10 micrograms per liter. The federal government has it at 70. So as such, water treatment facilities are required to capture and treat for this. Typically, it's done by a granulated or powdered activated carbon system. In this case, Suez has taken the lead and said to the New York State DEC and the DOH, saying, we're going to do this. We're not going to wait for you to tell us to do it. And that's why we're here. So they're upgrading their facilities to include for the treatment of these particular forever chemicals.
Rich, thanks. I think that was really valuable for us all to know. It's really it's an improvement to the quality of the drinking water. Pat, you had some comments?
I did, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Rich.
So we had a series of comments that were delivered originally for all of these applications. So and I would say Suez has done a very good job of being thorough in their responses. So some of the responses apply to all, but some of them are specific to each particular application. So in this particular application, there was some confusion about the boundary on the map that you see before you. That's been clarified. As Mike indicated, this one does need a variance for the lot area. They will be obtaining state wetland permits for this and Army Corps permits if necessary. They've clarified sort of the same questions we had. This facility will be a permanent facility for this and all 4 other locations. There was a question on this one about whether or not if you can see on the map, there were a single driveway that goes to the spring house now, and they were proposing a second driveway to access the new facility. So the question related to that was, do you need 2 driveways? Can you do it off a single driveway? And they've indicated because of the design and configuration of the spring house, there really is no way to do that reasonably to combine the driveways. So they're continuing to maintain the 2 separate driveways. They've clarified the heights of the fences. We did suggest installing privacy slats in the fence on this particular one. They've indicated that the existing landscaping was thick enough that they didn't think it was necessary, and there is a significant amount of intervening vegetation that's there. They have added and bolstered the landscaping plan additionally. They've clarified details of the retaining walls. For all of the applications, we had a question about the pumps and the noise associated with the pumps, and they've clarified that all the pumps are down in the wells hundreds of feet below the surface, so it's unlikely there'll be any noise issues associated with the wells. The original plan showed 3 large maple trees being removed. It didn't appear that they were necessary to be removed. They are preserving those trees in response to your comments about that. The chemical storage that will occur on site for all of these facilities is monitored electronically. It's monitored off-site, and there's containment around all the chemical storage facilities that would accommodate the full amount of material. So that's a good thing. That applies to all of them. They've clarified how often these get visited, once a day, so it's not a high-density kind of a use. They've given us new lighting plan for this, and for all of these, if you remember, they had an issue with their prefabricated building contractor, and they had an issue with sourcing that material. They have a new contractor, and they've now provided details of the new prefabricated building. Same thing, it will be a prefabricated building, but they have colors selected, they have materials selected, and the one thing that I would ask that you've used the euphemisms for the colors. I don't know what Chelsea tan is, so provide us with what those colors actually are. But I think what you're going to see is basically a dark green metal building in the woods. So that's generally not a bad approach. So those are my comments on this one.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, one thing I'll ask, if there's, and Pat just touched on this, we have several projects up here from Suez tonight. If there's some, like you just mentioned, the noise, there's lighting, park, if there's some things that are the same for all of them, let us know so we don't keep asking you a question about the lighting, or we don't keep asking you if there's something that's redundant or common throughout, just state that now, or state that as you present this so that we don't keep asking the same question for each project.
Understood.
Okay, please.
I'm John Kirkpatrick. I'm an attorney and city planner. With me here tonight is Steve Garabed from Suez Water, Ramya Ramanathan from Ansel Nash and Ziegler, you know from last time, and we also have Andrew Balto here from Gannett Planning Engineers, and John Ansel also from Ansel Nash. We would like to do this a little more generically.
Sure.
As was explained by Mr. Franzetti, we are under a deadline from the State Health Department. So we're pushing this as hard as we possibly can. The whole team would like to apologize. Last time we appeared before you, we appeared a little disorganized. So we're going to try to do a lot better.
I would say that your submission this time was a nice improvement.
Now, you have the reports from your staff and consultants, and they indicate there are technical issues we still need to address. So what we would like to do is we would like tonight to concentrate on those issues in which we really need a little more input from your board. We need to go for dimensional variances. We need to go for wetlands permits. We need to address in further applications everything the staff and consultants have pointed out. So what we are hoping is that we leave here tonight with your permission to make our applications to the zoning board and the environmental board. We're also hoping that you would agree that when we do come back before your board, hopefully with all those permits, that could be for the public hearings at that time, so that the next time we come before you, we might be able to finish this off. So what we're trying to do tonight, then, is to address really landscaping, buffering, and appearance, and get a better idea of what more we need to do in those areas, because your staff and consultants have been very clear what additional technical information we need to provide. So we'll go it one by one, or any way you want to, and of course we're all here to answer any questions that you have, but we'd like to start with this one and talk really about landscaping, amount of the buffer landscape, the appearance of the building, that sort of thing. So let me turn it over to Ramya, who will do most of the presentation.
Sure, thank you.
Where would you like to be? Okay.
Good evening to the board. I'm just going to take a second to open the landscaping plan so everybody can see.
Sure.
And we have the renderings on the screen and on the board below.
Can you take a microphone with you over to there? I think that microphone comes out.
Oh, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, John. From the last meeting, we were asked to do an analysis of the existing trees on site, and we went ahead and did that. There are really not many evergreen trees on site, just 2 of them, and both of them are going to be preserved. Majority of the trees on the site are deciduous. We are proposing different species of evergreens to be planted, and most of the plantings are, as you can see, just at the entrance to Brook Avenue so that the building could be shielded as much as possible. Up on the rendering, you'll see we've given a comparison of how the plants would look when they're at an 8 feet height and how they would look when they're on a 20 feet height. We've tried to give as much as evergreen tree coverage possible so that the building is shielded from the roadway. And because they're evergreen, you can expect this to be any year-round coverage. As far as the trees being removed, we're proposing 14 trees to be removed due to site development issues and requirements. But we hope from the last time that you saw the plan, this looks like an improved version. But if you think there's something more we should be adding, we'd be open to your comments and
Can you just
suggestions.
clarify they're being installed at 8 feet height?
Yes, 6 to 8 feet height, depending on what we get, yes. 6 to 8 feet, yes.
And what is the anticipated growth of each tree?
We do show it up to 20 feet, but
But how much do they grow each year on average?
green giants about 10 inches in year.
Okay, so you're looking at a decade before they get to the size of the lower ones, right?
Yeah.
Okay, can we go bigger?
Uh,
Can we plant them? Bigger than
the-
8 feet?
Bigger than 8 feet. We can definitely try to see, costing-wise, how much that works out. We started out with this as an initial idea, but if that's your recommendation, we can talk to the applicant and see.
I think even
that's-
if you did a couple of them larger, then the other ones could catch up to it. It'd start to
Okay.
give it something, where if you put the little ones, it doesn't really cover much at all. I think that's what Ray's talking
Yeah, I
about,
mean,
correct?
this particular site, I mean, this thing is literally right on the road, and it's going to be quite big, and I do think it's going to be somewhat unsightly for people who live in that area to be driving by that every day. I mean, most of the other sites that you're developing, it's set back or it's not going to be visible. This one, it's very visible. So, I mean, I'm only one of the board members, but I mean, in my opinion, we need to do something a little more on this one.
Sure.
I
we'll
would
work
agree
with the
with that.
applicant on
These are
that.
relatively narrow, right, this type of planting?
Green giant arborvitaes?
Yeah.
You plant them 4 feet on center and a couple
You need to use, I'm sorry, but you need to use that microphone. Or a microphone.
Hi, I'm sorry, John Atzel, Nasher, and Ziegler. Green giant arborvitaes, if you plant them like 4 foot on center, in a couple years, you just have a green wall. They spread out to about 4 foot, so they would fill in.
How tall is that building?
Up, 1 second. That's going to be 22 feet.
And how wide is the building?
The dimensions are going to be 33 by 22.
So it's a cube.
Yes.
Okay, so to screen that building, you would need 5 arborvitae?
I can count that out
In
for
other
you.
words,
Well,
to
there's
take
more,
up the width
as you're
of the
driving
building?
though, yes, if it was right in front of the building, but as you're driving, they're out a little further, so it does go longer.
Yeah, I understand.
That's all. 'Cause
But
they-
I'm going with Ray's comment that, that if you could strategically place some taller ones so that, you're not spending the money on all of them being very tall.
Yeah, what I
You
might
can get
suggest-
you can get some bang at it.
And what we've done in the past is, at the point of installation, if you notify Mike, and Mike can help you site each particular tree in an appropriate location. So we're getting the right spots. You're welcome.
And,
correct me if I'm wrong,
This one
though.
happens to be right on the road, so we're a little bit more concerned one that's in the woods by 100 feet.
The arborvitae start out fairly, their circumference is not very big. All right, so you have an 8-foot tree right now. So maybe not so much the height, but the diameter of the tree. So would you consider a different type of planting then? A spruce or fir?
Well,
or something?
actually, if you look at the plan, actually, we have green giants and eastern red cedars alternating. That way, if, a disease comes in, it doesn't wipe out the entire thing, which we've done in other projects. Other municipalities have requested that. So we are alternating some of the plantings, but they're all evergreen plantings.
in this
That
town-
brings a question that I had, which is, what is our confidence that if any of these plantings die out, that they'll be replaced?
They will have to replace them. It'll be a violation of site plan if they do not.
Okay.
If it's on there, that is something that is enforceable by my department.
Any other questions from the board on this one London Bridge Well site plan?
The building can't actually be moved back, correct?
It's a wetland.
Yeah, we looked into that, but as far as I'm aware, site constraints are not allowing us to do that.
Yes, because it actually drops off quite a bit after you come off, and then, actually, that's one reason we have to install the retaining walls for the driveways and everything. But we do meet the minimum front setback, but I think we've pushed it back pretty much as far as we can. And actually, Brook Avenue is, the edge of the road is not up to, exactly at the property line, so there's probably about 5 more feet in there. So we're really looking at maybe 35 to 40 feet off the actual edge of the actual road.
Just wondering, because that could, by pulling it back, that could actually lower the building and then not make it look so tall. That's all I was thinking.
Are you going to need to bring any fill on site for this?
I believe we will, on this site, I believe we will, and will adhere to the town engineer's comments about the notes required for the site and the amount of fill. We'll do a cut fill analysis.
And that's going to be my same question for all of them. So just any fill that you bring on site, we need to make sure it's clean as per.
That's understood, and I believe we're probably going to end up doing a cut fill analysis for all 5 sites, and that notation, if any fill has to be brought in, that will be a note on the site plan for all 5.
Can you, I know there's a lot of documents here, and I've read through them, but can you explain how the lighting and parking is going to work for this specific one?
How the lighting and
Parking,
parking?
your own parking.
Well, basically, lighting, there's only going to be lighting above the doorways to get into the, to get in, and they're not large fixtures, and the light doesn't get thrown out. There's one on the south side of the building and one on the west side of the building. We have provided the Isolux lines and the foot candle values. They don't come anywhere near the road or any of the neighbors. And the parking, actually, you have to remember, these aren't going to be regular cars. They're going to be 4-wheel drive pickup trucks and 4-wheel drive vehicles with high ground clearance. They're going to come in and enter the site, either park over here, back up and leave, and then or park over here, back up and leave. And there's room for some stacking, and they'll be coming and going basically together if there's more than one vehicle.
This isn't a daily operation where somebody's going to be there every day.
That I don't.
The operator will be visiting daily?
I believe it's checked daily, though.
Yeah.
Daily, okay, so it is.
Yeah,
I thought it was once every week or so. That's
daily.
got it.
Will that check daily be during the day?
Yeah, so it'll be during regular
Business
business
hours.
hours, yes.
Do separate vehicles come in to change the filtration media and stuff like that? And if so, how often does that happen?
Hi, good evening. Steve Garabred, Manager of Engineering for Suez. With regard to carbon changeouts, we expect it would be every 1 to 2 years before we'd have to change it out. Okay. If you wouldn't mind, just...
Didn't know if it was weekly or how frequently they had to do it, so you're saying yearly?
Yeah, yearly to every 2 years. Yeah, it's a big job to change that out. I just wanted to speak to the landscaping. So when you transplant these trees, it's a shock to the trees themselves. And the smaller trees tend to actually grow faster when you first plant them because they tend to recover a little quicker than a larger tree. So it's not always better to plant a larger tree. While it might look better initially, the smaller tree may grow at a quicker rate and catch up. And some of the green giant trees, I mean, you see published rates, they'll say it grows 3 feet a year. So obviously, it's natural. It's going to grow at what it grows at, depends on the fertilization and all of that. but they are fast-growing, and like John said, they do fill out quite quickly. And, you know, so we are expecting that it'll hide the facility reasonably quickly. And with regard to some of the lighting, Department of Health wants us to put perimeter lighting up at all of these sites. They want our sites lit up like Yankee Stadium, and we are not proposing that. So we just wanted to bring that to your attention, because that is something that they always like to raise, that we should have more lights at our facilities. I mean, try to explain to them that many of our facilities are in residential areas, and it's not really appropriate. We need the lighting for safety purposes, make sure that, you know, people can see as they're walking around and so forth. So
Steve, that's a good question. So is it conceivable they'll mandate that, or can you control this?
I'm going to tell you, on my other sites, when they do their inspections, they tell us that we should do more, and we generally keep it the way it is. Because like I said, we have many facilities that are very similar, where they're in residential neighborhoods,
So
and it's
just
not
be-
appropriate to light it up like that.
I totally agree with you, but just be aware, we'll condition this site plan on this plan. So if you choose or if you have to amend that in the future, you're coming back to this board to ask permission.
Okay, understood.
Now, I understand you have remote monitoring for the water. What about security? Is there anything from a security point of view?
There will be,
Other than a fence?
yeah, so as part of our SCADA system, and when we build these new facilities, we're going to put in new SCADA for the new buildings. They'll have intrusion alarms, smoke detectors, things like that.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, if people don't know what SCADA is, it's called, the acronym stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition, and it's basically the system that takes all the readings from the instruments, the pressures, the flows, and so forth, brings it to a terminal or a CPU, and then transmits the information via usually cell modems up here back to a central control room, and that's where we're doing the monitoring. And so we have alarms and things set up so that if, you know, the chlorine level drops down or something below a certain set level, we get an alarm and we can send somebody out to go take care of that.
So what can go wrong? In other words, if electricity's down, you're not getting a cell thing, what can go wrong on that?
There's battery backups. There's battery backups in the RTU.
I'm just trying
keep them
to
up
figure
and
out the worst
But
case.
we'll also get a signal that tells us we lost power.
I'm just trying to figure out what the worst case scenario is. Would we have a situation where just the water's not working, or could you also have a dumping of chemicals or something like that?
No, if there was a power loss at the facility, right, the well would go off. Everything would shut off.
Just shut down.
Right. So, and we would get a signal via SCADA, loss of power at a particular facility, and then we could deploy somebody to go investigate. You know, certainly if, you know, a power line's down and it's going to be a long-term thing, we'll bring out a generator and get the facility back up and running on generator.
So none of these facilities will be, have an on-site generator, or?
Not permanent on-site generators.
Okay.
Should we move on to the next subject?
No, we need to address this one right now, right? Because each one might be different. We might send one on to the zoning board, and we might not send another on to the zoning board. Do we have a motion to deny to the zoning board?
I'll make a motion to deny the applicant to the zoning board.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We also need to refer to ECD.
And then, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to refer this to the ECB.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We can go on to Guymer Wells.
Chairman, I assume this was already referred to the fire department? Right, we would do that as a part of the application? So the health department would be your only other one that's required by code, so. They're going to have to go to health department, but that's their own, they know that, that's their governing body.
We can get it approved, so.
Okay, we can go on to the next one, Guymer Wells. Mike, couple comments?
Same first three comments, referral to the ECB, fire department, all that. Lot area variances required from ZBA, 120,000 square feet required, 26,000 and change are provided, 93,970 square foot variance required. But it's the same thing with the buffering and everything
Yep.
else.
And Rich?
So in essence, they're the same set of comments as a 33 by 22 by 22 foot building. They have general comments to referrals to the DEC, Putnam County DOH, ECB, Mahopac Falls Fire Department. They'll need permits for stormwater, wetlands, well and treatment system, and ECB for wetlands. They've noted that. They provided the SWIP, which is under review. They need a 100-year floodplain in this specific case. They have noted the need for this permit, so they need to submit it. They provided a grading plan, same comment with the amount of fill, calculations to be provided for the site distances. They need to show turning radii for the site and includes in the site entrance. They didn't provide that. Driveway profile, performance and engineering bond, performance bond and engineering fee. They said a tree plan was provided, but no tree planting plan was provided, only a tree removal plan for this particular site. So I don't know if they're going to do any additional landscaping. They provided rain gardens. They need to just make sure they meet the New York State DEC approval and for the general stormwater. And I didn't note it on the last one, Mr. Chairman and Board. There's a whole bunch of comments about a water system and how we want things to work. All those notes should be added to the drawings so that who's ever installing it, if they're putting in a hydrant, they have to put in, or if they're putting in saddles, if they're doing it, we have criteria we'd like to see. The only thing that they did not agree with is that we turn ours counterclockwise. They turn their valves off, on and off, well, they turn theirs clockwise, we turn ours counterclockwise to close it, but whatever. We're opposite of them, so.
Righty-tighty.
That would have worked.
Thanks, Rich. And Pat?
There's two issues that are unique to this one. Rich touched on it. This will be in the floodplain. The building's being elevated 2 feet above the base flood elevation, so the building's good. We raised the issue last time. However, the driveway would not be elevated, so the driveway would flood. They've indicated that in order to remedy that, they have to add fill. We don't want them, or they don't want to add fill in a floodplain. That's generally a negative thing. So they've got a driveway that conceivably is underwater in a storm event, and they've said they've got big trucks with high clearance. That's how they would access it. And in terms of our concerns about emergency circumstances, as you heard, the facility's remotely monitored, so if something were going wrong, they would know about it. And theoretically, they'd find a way to get across the flooded driveway in a significant condition. So the point being, mitigating that issue, elevating the driveways is probably a good long thing to do with the floodplain. So we have a situation that's not optimal, but probably not the worst thing in the world.
But you did mention that the building's raised up.
Yes.
But the building, that's correct, so they'll meet the requirements there. And the other issue was raised regarding whether or not additional supplemental landscaping would be necessary.
Correct.
They clarified that I think it's 145 feet to the nearest residence, and it's woodland in between the building and the residence. So their position is they don't think it's necessary. There's photographic evidence to that fact, and I think that's a reasonable position.
And I misspoke on my memo. It actually says that as well, too. I said the same buffering thing, but this one's a little different.
Yeah, we're looking at it right here. It's
And the only other thing I have to add is, again, with the electrical, they say they're investigating an electrical service upgrade. Unclear if they're burying it or still running it through the trees or through the poles. So that just needs to be looked at and addressed.
I think the more information you can provide, you've done a great job here, the better it'll be at the public hearing when you get there someday. Anything to add to what you just heard? You want to take us through anything architectural?
Before we go forward.
Sure.
Rich, what was your comment about the electric here? I'm sorry, I couldn't.
So they've indicated that they're doing an electrical upgrade. They're considering, investigating, an electrical upgrade, a service upgrade. The installation of the upgrade electrical service should be buried, is what I'm saying. But I don't know if they've considered that, or if that's shown. It's not shown on the drawings.
We will be responding to that in the plans that we bring back to Mr. Franzetti.
The service upgrade will be an underground service upgrade?
Most likely.
Most likely, I do believe so. Any service upgrades can be underground utilities?
get the electric utilities to the site, obviously, it's got to go above ground. Once it gets to the site, we'll drop it down the utility pole, and it'll be subsurface. But to get it to the property, because it's got to come from a cul-de-sac on the opposite side, I forget the name of the particular street, but that's where the service is, so it's got to be overhead to the property, and then it'll be subsurface.
That information needs to be, I don't know if I saw that on the drawings, maybe I missed it, but that definitely show that where the existing electrical is and where you're going to be burying the new electrical. That would be perfect.
We will detail that.
How is it currently set up?
Right now, I believe it's all above ground.
So all the way
Yeah.
out to the unit itself is above ground?
Yes, it goes right to the well house, I believe, above ground. Yeah.
Do you want to present anything architecturally? I have it up in front of me, but feel free to speak to it.
Sure. So, as the consultants just mentioned, we haven't submitted a formal landscaping plan because we believe that there's adequate vegetation on the site currently. As you can see from the rendering on the board, the top picture is where the site actually is, so you can get a sense of the amount of vegetation that's actually around it. So we don't anticipate any visual impacts thanks to the vegetation. And below that is from the street view. Andy, can I request you to just zoom into the bottom portion? Yeah, so the site is, oops. Yeah, if you could just hover around the building, Andy, that might help them identify where it is actually.
Yeah, the building's actually, you see the corner of the building, it's all in shadow. You can't really see it between the building panel, color being green.
Use your microphone, please.
So the building is actually visible from the street, just barely, slightly the back corner of the building. But because of the color of the panels that we're using, the green panel, it's hemlock green is the color from the manufacturer, and the shadows that you see, it blends significantly in with the existing landscaping, so it's almost imperceptible that you actually see it from the driveway.
The existing building that's there today, is it in that location?
The existing site plan, I can show it to you. Right over here. So that's the proposed and that is the existing.
Okay.
So
are you concerned with any vandalism or anything that far into the woods? You just have is this 6-foot high fence, same kind of fence as previously stated?
yes, I believe so, six feet.
And the lighting, same?
Similar lighting, yes.
Any questions from the board members? Any other questions from the board members?
I just have, and I meant to ask this with the prior application we were talking about. Do we have any renderings today to show us what the structure is going to look like? I know we saw some last time, but now you're talking about a different manufacturer and different. Do you have anything to show us?
Actually, when we get to one of the next ones, we will be able to see the building behind the landscaping much more clearly, so we can address that then, if that's okay. They're all the same buildings.
Were you asking for samples of
The building itself. Just get a better idea of what the structure looks like. I mean, the last time we saw, they gave us a rendering, but you're telling us it's a different manufacturer, different, so I just wanted to see what it looked like.
So I could answer that a little bit. So the buildings themselves haven't changed, the size, the heights, they haven't changed at all. It's just the actual manufacturer of the siding panels and the structure itself has changed. So the actual color is a little different now in the renderings, you'll see, because it's more accurate. So we actually used the color sample that was provided by the manufacturer to us in this rendering, or all the renderings. In the last go-around, we didn't. It was a generic green color that we used. That's why it kind of stood out a little bit more.
And when we get to the better illustration, you'll also see that there's a difference now in the foundation part of the building. But the main part of the building, as he said, is still the same.
Okay, we would need a motion to deny to the ZBA and a referral to the ECB, if anyone wants to make those.
Mr. Chairman, before we make the motion, I just want to backtrack a little bit. Rich had a lot more comments on this particular application. So I just want to make sure that if we're moving forward, that generally we don't move things forward when there's, a great deal of comments. So I'd just like the board to realize that, and maybe just go around that one more time before we do this.
Rich, you want to,
So my comments are generic pretty much to all of them. The only thing different on this one was the FEMA floodplain. They just need to add notes to the drawing on the grand scheme of things to get in there. So I'm still reviewing the SWIP, but they just got to make sure they meet some of this criteria. It's mostly just easy technical stuff. They just got to get there. The bigger questions that were for this and all the sites were landscaping, as they generally indicated, right? Buffering, the view shed, what the buildings look like. Most of the site plan stuff is relatively straightforward. They need to get all their approvals from, the county ultimately. That has nothing to do with this board or the department or the consultants here. So I think they're okay. To answer your question, I think they're okay.
All right, no, I appreciate that.
many times we said there's too many comments.
Is the lighting similar on this one also? Just two building lights?
Yes. Yes.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to refer this to the ZBA.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we need I'll make a motion to refer this to the ECB as well.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And this will come back, we still have a public hearing when the time's right, so we will see this again. Okay, Chateau Wells. Yeah, it does. Mike, Chateau Wells?
Again, the same first comments. The submission includes 68-foot trees. The building is somewhat close to McNair cul-de-sac, as you can see in the top picture. It makes it more difficult to screen the building. Is there any issue with security? This is where my question came in, because I was thinking about kids getting back there. If too many trees are in front of them, you wouldn't know they're there as well. Screening buildings from the street makes it more difficult to see if somebody is tampering with the building. Is there a happy medium? We need to figure that out. Referral to DCB, all the other referrals, and a variance is required for lot area, same as the other ones. 47,745 provided, 72,255 variance needed.
And Rich?
So in this particular case, again, my comments are all the same. They know the permits, they know the referrals, they have a SWIP, and they have a floodplain permit for this one also is required. Oh, I'm looking at Guyman again, I take that back. Sorry about that. This is Chateau. I apologize, Mr. Chairman. I will repeat that, though. Everything else is the same. The fill, the slopes, the driveway profiles. They are putting a driveway in. They need to make sure that the specifications are 8-inch base, 3-inch binder, 2-inch top course. Again, a landscaping plan has been provided. They should add a note that all plantings being installed according to town code. They said it was added to the drawings. It wasn't on there. Again, going back to the electrical, they've indicated electric service will be upgraded using overhead wires. Installation of the upgraded electrical service should be buried. And then the same standard comments with regards to gate valves and all that kind of fun stuff that they need to just put on the drawings if they're using any of those appurtenances.
And Pat?
So two things unique to this one. This one, Mr. Chairman, if you remember, the new building's right next to the existing spring house. So we asked, can it be a single building? And the response to that was an obvious response. We can't turn off the pump house to build a new building around it and still operate their water supply. So that's the reason they need two separate buildings. You can't take one offline to put them together.
It can't be, once the new building's on. built, will the other one come offline?
So I think you'd ask the question, but that was the response to that question. The other issue before they answer was the landscaping. So they did supplement the landscaping, particularly along the property line where it's close. So they did a good job in responding to that issue as well. Those are the two unique issues with this one.
You want to take us through the architectural, please?
Sure. Can I request Andy to just brief you on the architectural, and then I can walk you through the landscaping?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Sure, so like the other sites, this building is now reflected with the correct color, has the masonry base, and you can see the layered landscaping that we added along the perimeter.
So Andy, that's hemlock green and...
Yes, so this green is, it's called hemlock green, that's the color from the manufacturer of the wall panel. And then the roof and everything is a medium brown color. So again, on this site in particular, we have a 6 to 8 foot landscaping view, and then on the same board, and I'm just zoomed here and I'm scrolling down, higher 20-foot elevation of the trees out, a number of years from after they're planted, just to give you an idea of how the landscaping would shield the building.
How's that's shielded in the front, but how's it shielded from the side?
So it's a good question.
Can the neighbors look across, right where your pointer is there? Can they look across from their yard and see the building, or are you landscaping it there also?
We are landscaping here, but the issue here is that the driveway and the property line are very close to one another. So there's really not a lot of room to plant anything. We have planted a row of trees there, for a lack of a better term, but that's it. It's not multi-layered like it is along the front and the other side.
However, if the neighbor, the resident alongside there,
they could add their own if they don't.
Or you could ask them for them.
To plant on their property?
If need be. I mean, if you're making an eyesore for them, if it's, I can't visualize right now what it looks like, but if someone's got a beautiful view, and if you're going to disrupt that view, I think it's something you might want to consider.
I think that would be a good neighbor policy.
The only thing I would say, they see the existing spring house very clearly right now. There's really no obstruction to it at all. So this is actually going to improve that, I'll say that view, if you will, by screening it. And the part of the way the building is sited, and John Romney can talk about this, is that the way it's sited is that part of the building is actually screening the well house. So,
but we'll go ahead. Right.
You said that right now there's nothing screening. What's the size of the building there?
That I don't, Romney, I don't actually.
I think it's a very low, I think it's 4 or 5 feet tall. It's a low
Here's
building.
the,
If you go to the 3 by 12.
that's what you see there now.
Oh, okay. So there's no comparison between the existing building and the...
Height-wise, no. No, the new building is much taller. That's not a question.
I think I'd like to, we can come back to this. We do have a public hearing.
The public hearing is going to tell it all.
It might behoove you to think about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm looking at what's there today, and I've driven out to that, and what will be there tomorrow, and we're going. Let's just think about what I asked.
Understood.
Maybe they can put siding on the existing building to make it match the new building?
Or paint it.
Or paint it the same color, or something to that effect?
Because the current building isn't
white.
Isn't the?
It's white.
Yeah.
Stark.
That's a good thought, Rich. Mike.
Something I want you to take a look at, please, about the new building.
I'm sorry?
There was some discussion about what do these buildings look like and renderings we've given you before. So
I have it. I have what's existing there. It's in the file. We're looking at it right here.
oh no, I mean the buildings we're proposing.
Yeah.
We showed you a rendering before of the building, so we need to point out that we've had to make a change. The existing proposal before you is that the lower 4 feet is what's called a split block foundation. However, it does not meet state energy code. So consequently, and I believe, are we switching to the illustration that shows it well now?
Yep.
So we're switching, therefore, to a concrete panel, and now that shows you the lower part of the building is now a concrete panel. I don't think it makes a big difference, but we certainly wanted to be sure that you were aware of it.
Okay.
So this is shown as the basic color. It's just a concrete. It's like a raw concrete color. It can be painted.
I think that this lid block was brown or tan.
Yes, correct.
So these, the current, looks like there's 2 white buildings there now, correct? I have, there's several, but there's, looks like there's 2 white buildings there now, is that correct?
That's
Was one of, is that a generator?
It's a generator, yeah. There's
Okay.
a spring house and the generator.
So, I understand that there's switch over, but when we build a new building, it's up and running, can't the other one be sunset?
We're going to ask Steve to take this one.
No, that's the easy answer is no. So all the existing equipment inside the existing building is going to continue to be used. We're providing the treatment on the front end, and then there's storage tanks that are buried behind that building. So the water's going to continue to go through those, be chlorinated, have the chlorine contact time, and then we have booster pumps out of there out to the distribution system. So all of that will remain.
So we're adding a system to this, but the existing system has to stay.
Yeah, we're just adding upstream treatment.
Another way to say it is you're adding the 38 by 24 foot building.
Yes.
For upstream treatment.
Well, I don't know if we told you before that these things are like big Brita filters, like the sort of thing
No,
that you...
Yeah,
Yeah.
we, a meeting or so ago, we tried to get,
They're tall, and there are 3 of them.
And these are the little ones.
So one question.
I have sites where we have the 12-foot units and the buildings are 35 feet tall.
How many
We have some
properties
where
do
we
you
have
actually
4 vessels. I'm sorry?
Sorry about that. I thought you were dying. How many houses does this actually take care of service?
Shadow takes care of about 180 customers.
180, there you go.
Oh, I'm glad you have that.
So one question I
And
have.
they're all about the same size?
The well sites, now there's different production out of different ones and different numbers of customers for each site.
So they're all different.
I don't have I forget, how many customers here or there, but I could tell you the flow rates we have at different sites.
So, I have a question prompted by this picture. The generators, can you clarify the duration of time that the generator is going to be on premises? And that's a general question for each of these.
I believe it's there all the time. My understanding is historically at these sites, there were no generators. And we'd lose power up here. Well, this is before Suez was involved. Power would be lost and there would be no water for days or longer. And then when we came in, that was one of the requirements was we needed to get transfer switches and generators for the sites.
And can you clarify the size of the generator? I mean, from this drawing, it looks fairly big, so that's why I asked.
I don't recall.
Roughly.
You're just looking size,
Total,
that it's-
not the wattage, I'm talking about the dimensions.
the generator.
I'm guessing it
Yeah.
might be
You
15
can see here
feet long
compared to this
and
white SUV, it's like,
6 to 8 feet wide.
see the SUV?
Yeah, so
For these.
spending a lot of time. So it looks like it's roughly 6 to 8 feet. We're spending a lot of time talking about the color of the building, the screening, and then all of a sudden there's going to be this generator. So can the generator be situated in each location such that it is not visible to the adjoining properties? Meaning behind the building, the side?
I don't believe so. Here's why. So part of the thing, you got to remember that those generators have batteries, right? So you have to always have it connected to electricity. There has to be the trickle charger, charging the batteries up, engine block heater, all of that. So it needs to be close to utilities to maintain all of that.
So I guess the question with respect to the generator really is, if that's there all the time, it's a permanent feature on the site, so it should be reflected on the site plan. It's not now, so it's now becoming a permanent fixture.
And-
So if that comes in and out every, moves around a lot, different story.
It could. I mean, that's just it. Like,
So that's can you clarify that for us? But if it's always there, if the tires are deflated and it's never moving.
Oh, I don't believe
then-
that that's
then
the
it's
case.
permanent.
No,
If it does move and you shift them around to different facilities and so forth, then it's a mobile facility.
So this site is one of the larger ones, and so I believe they keep the generator there. If this site had power and another site didn't have power, we didn't have a generator, we would grab this and tow it over to the other site. I mean, that's, the
It's an
portables
interesting-
give us flexibility, during storm events.
I hear you, but it's an interesting issue to Bob's point. If it's there 364 days of the year, we should worry about its color and screening and so forth.
Exactly, and placement.
But if it moves around all the time, less of a concern to us, obviously. So if you could clarify that, maybe a little more detail about how it really operates and where it lives all the time, that would be helpful.
And if it's going to be there for the vast majority of the time, can you do something with the color? I mean, white stands out, should be the same color as the building.
Okay.
Okay.
We will,
We can
we
look into
will
that.
add that in the responses to the staff.
Why do you label the parking spot generator parking?
Seriously.
No, I'm serious. Put that on the site plan, and we'll know what it's for.
We've actually done that in the past for mobile facilities that come and go periodically. You've got a spot for it. We've thought about it. It's the right spot to be located. You've found the right spot. So again, it helps Mike enforce things in the future. And if it's on the plan, we can get a better handle on things. So again, something to think about. Mike's got a good suggestion.
If your next generator happens to be 20 feet long, and it blocks the driveway, and you have a problem with that, we could say, well, you're not supposed to have that size, it's supposed to be clear, so it just helps everybody, you too. I mean, it helps everybody down the road.
Right. Okay.
Clears it up for you.
Do you also have a dumpster on the side of that property?
Not that I'm aware of. Yeah. I'm not involved with the day-to-day operations, but I don't recall in the times I've been at the site seeing a dumpster.
It looks like one in your drawings there. On the right of the driveway, you see the green over there?
You don't generate refuse.
That's what I was trying to think, yeah, there's nothing. I mean, that's not typical at any of our sites.
It's on, you can see it clearly on page 134 of your deck. I think we have to visit the colors. I mean, I like the color of the new building, but then we have this very large generator and this, Kim, you look into the same drawing I am, and then you have this other white building, and then you're gonna put this beautiful new building. I don't think the white blends personally. I don't know what other members of the board's feelings are.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I think it should be painted.
Tim?
It should be painted.
We should have uniformity of the buildings.
Okay.
We can paint to match.
And when you visit the property next, look at that container, that dumpster, what,
Yep, we'll take a look. I know that's there's also the neighbor is right there too. I don't know that he
Yeah,
would have something there.
it's on
but-
your property, but maybe it's theirs, who knows?
It's good screening.
Any other comments? I think I'd like to see a plan on what you propose for the generator in that other building. I don't know what the board's view is right now.
Well, it's a comment for all of them, right?
I'm sorry?
It's a comment for all of these.
Well, this one in particular, because you have this big white generator and this big white building.
What I'm saying, Brook Street will have a generator, and, we were very careful there, so it's an issue for anything where visibility is a concern.
Isn't there a similar but smaller generator at the London Bridgewell? I seem to remember when I drove by that there was one somewhere on the site, but I could be mistaken.
I don't remember a generator there. But they do move.
I
Right,
looked
it
at the
could have been there
Google image, I
temporarily.
didn't see it.
But is
Okay.
it safe
I'm
to
not saying
say
it's not
that
there,
when
I
you're
just-
finished working on this, there is going to be a generator there at the London Bridge site?
No, I can't say for certain that there would be. I know that's a smaller well. Like I said, this one's probably stored here because it's one of the larger wells.
So I think you just need to tell us, right, for each of these.
I mean, operations moves them around to wherever they're needed, so. But we'll see if we can get an answer for you on those.
Does that generator have to be stored at this location? Because we have other properties where you have further, the property goes back further.
So we don't have a formal yard or something like that where we could store all the generators and all the equipment or anything. And it just makes sense, if it's at a site.
No, I wasn't referring to a yard, but another one of the well sites, where it may be further off the road, less.
There's a long driveway off Fox Hollow Road.
I mean, are we fixed that it has to be here?
No, I'm not, no.
I mean,
Yeah.
because I think if you paint that building and put that, store that generator in another well location,
Yeah.
that's less, obvious. It makes that, a little bit better appeal to it.
Yeah, I'll talk to operations and see if there's another location where we can keep it and keep it charged up and everything. Okay. Yeah, this site's a little more visible, so.
Just not the one that has the driveway that's going to be underwater.
Okay.
I'm not sure I'm ready on this one. I don't know about boards.
I'm with you.
I'd like to see, we're going to have another meeting in 2 weeks. I'd like to see a little bit more on this one personally.
All right, when could we come back with this one?
If you're prepared with what you plan on doing with the generator, if it's going to remain there or not, and with out of the building, and how you're going to paint, side, whatever, we can, if you're ready, we can get you on the next agenda in 2 weeks.
And also the issue with the side of the trees, whether they can perhaps talk to the neighbors and try to put a little more there.
And it will not affect your zoning board, because the deadline was yesterday, so we still have a full month, so it's not affecting anything.
That's an excellent point. What
Okay, thank you.
Mike said is, we meet every 2 weeks, the zoning board once a month.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to lose any time on that.
You're not missing anything.
Okay. Well, we'll get you a new plan very quickly.
Great. Just follow up with Rose, and Mike's point is a good one. Okay. We're going to hold this one.
It's probably the 26th.
So just to be clear, when we come back in 2 weeks, you want to see the colors for the renderings and the existing building, and if the generator is going to remain where in the colors.
Yeah, and I think Anthony's point is, could the generator be somewhere not on the road? You have all these other properties, is there a better place for the generator to be stored, knowing that you need a generator?
Yeah.
Will do. Yep. We'll investigate it.
Okay, I believe Mayapack Wells is next. Mike, you had comments?
Everything was basically the same. The only comment I really had was that if you can move the buffer closer to the building, you may be able to get more of the building covered with trees, as opposed to, right now, it's all looking pretty much below the building until the 10 years comes, or however long. If you move them up the hill, that's a hill, it looks like in the picture. I could be wrong, but in the picture, it looks like a hill going up. So if they put them maybe closer to the building, may break it up a little bit further. Is this the one over here on Bucks Hollow?
Yes.
What is the,
Access is off on Hollow, yes, but
what is the view from the other side? Because this is from the people on, I can't think of the name of the road, Nottingham Way.
Coventry Circle.
Yes, Coventry Circle. Because that's where we were really getting the most calls, was from Coventry Circle side. I guess that's where they were concerned about the looks of the building and how big it was going to be and everything. So, all right. So, I mean, that's just a thought. If you could push it closer, I don't know if that would help or hinder. How far are they from the building now? Do you know?
About 100 feet.
Yeah. They're actually at the existing tree line to the neighbors.
So that's their wall?
That's their wall.
Got it.
That's where we
Okay.
put it, to infill that wall.
Got it. So that's something the board has to think about. Would it be better against the building, putting a few there, or putting them out where the people can see? It's up to.
yeah, and one of the other reasons that we placed the trees up at the existing tree line was basically so you don't have to disturb a lot of the woods, and there's a difference in grade of 6 feet higher up in that area. So we feel the closer the trees are to the homes and the higher up they are, the more they'll be screening the facility.
Yeah, it's catchy because some people they have their back decks. That's why I was thinking closer to the building may actually break up the wall for everybody, not just this one view right here. That's all I was thinking
Oh,
about.
so this view is actually from one of those decks.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Are there any other structures that are on the property now that are going to remain? Because what I recall from when I visited in the fall, there was a fairly big trailer. I think you said at the last meeting there's some experimental thing, or?
The trailer on site is an iron and manganese treatment trailer that currently treats one of the wells. We had to run a pilot study to demonstrate that the technology worked before we were able to submit our plans to DOH. That trailer continues to operate today and treat the water, but once we have the full-scale facility in place, that trailer will be taken out of there.
And will that be reflected on the plans?
Yes. I thought I saw a note that said, to be removed at end. The existing well house that's out there today will remain.
And I know there was a generator there as well.
That's correct.
Rich, you had some comments also.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pretty much the same set of comments when it comes to permits and referrals, regrading, traffic. There's some easement information that was provided. I recommend that it be reviewed by Planning Council. There's the permit performance bond engineering fee. Applicants requested, you're still requesting a waiver of landscaping plan? You are showing landscaping here now, but it was requested on this one?
We did request one initially, but after our discussion with the residents and the board's comments, we have provided screening, as you can see, so we're not requesting that anymore.
So we can never mind that comment, just provide that landscaping plan. Again, the whole electrical utilities, they're saying an upgrade is going to be there, should be installed on the ground, the extent of utility should be provided. They provided a wastewater report, and this one they are looking to connect that iron well back into our water treatment facility, wastewater treatment facility. You need to provide loadings to the system. What happened was you gave me a flow, you gave me some parameters, some of them are high. I need the loadings, and you got to really look at section 120 of the town code to find out what we're looking for. I recommend you just put the parameters in alphabetical order. It's just easier to read and understand. You have in the wastewater report that you provided how you're going to connect, but that should be in the full set of drawings that's going to be built, right? So who's ever doing this work needs to know how they're going to connect into the town of Carmel sewer system if we allow you to do that. It should meet all the requirements, again, in section 120. The full set of drawings should have it. And there are road specifications, 12-inch item, 4 3-inch base, 2-inch binder, 1-inch top course. They need to be identified if you're cutting into the road or town of Carmel Road to access that sewer.
Thank you, Rich. And Pat?
We talked about the one item, which is the landscaping. Again, new landscaping plans supplemented up by Coventry Circle, not by the building, which is probably the right approach to this. Whether you think there should also be landscaping down by the building, up to you. The only other difference with respect to this one is visitation. Because of that manganese treatment at this location, they do need to collect backwash from the system that's trucked out with a waste hauler, and that's done weekly, I think, from this location. So this has more larger trips, but only once a week.
Now, this is the largest of the buildings, I believe it's 45 by 29.
Yes, that's correct.
What makes this one, is it just the volumes of water that's used, or what makes this one so much bigger?
It's serving 300 customers, which
Oh,
is the
so the
greatest
other one's
amongst the
180,
sites.
this is 300?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
But isn't it that this also includes the manganese iron system as well inside the building?
It's the trailer outside.
That's going inside the building?
Steve, that's correct, what Mr. Cleary just said?
Right, if I understood that correctly. Right, so current,
It's going into the new building.
yeah, all that'll be inside the new building.
That's
Current,
a bigger building.
and currently, right now, yes, we have a waste hauler comes out there. I believe it's weekly, but that won't be the case if we have the sewer connection. All of that'll be underground. Nobody will see it again.
You might have said it, but how far is this from the closest neighbor?
The proposed building, this distance between here is about 180 to 200 feet from the existing residence, the closest residence.
Thank you.
So could you just show the board where you're proposing to go with the wastewater line into the town sewer on Coventry Circle?
Sure.
Currently right now, that is where your water is fed back up to the system, right? So your treated water feeds, goes into the distribution system in the same easement, so that's what they're proposing.
Yes, and the utilities actually are going to be within that same easement. Actually, the wastewater will actually go within the same easement through an existing easement into the sewer line that's in Coventry Circle in this area in here, at the bend of the Coventry Circle.
So that disturbance, when you're looking at all the disturbance for the stormwater, that needs to be included in there. because you're
Understood,
gonna
yes.
be
I
Having a trench.
remember your comment.
The easements, need to be reviewed to make sure that they exist, to make sure that the homeowners are okay with that. You're going to need county approval, or you're going to at least to have state-regulated separations between water and sewer to make sure that, they're not interfering with each other. If one goes, you got to make sure one's, 4-foot separation between the two. Are you going to be able to do that, depth-wise, that is, so.
Yes, we're going to have to take a look at that.
Rich, can I assume that the easement is through a person's yard?
You have assumed correctly, sir.
Yeah, we had complaints, I'm pretty sure this was the site where the building department had complaints with respect to, they called and said workers were walking through their backyard. So this site in particular, we're gonna have to pay attention to the existing, not only the utility easements, but all easements and access easements, because some folks who live in and around there feel that either your folks are taking liberties with the existing easements, or they really don't know where they are and they're just trudging through people's backyards. So we're going to need to make sure that they're defined on this.
Yeah, I guess on that point, I mean, when we were last discussing this project, I remember discussion about the easement you were just pointing to and then saying that you were using that for access. Is that still the case, or?
I think you might be mixing the sites. I think that's the Archer site you were mixing with.
Is that the one with the round?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this is the one actually that goes all the way out to Bucks Hollow Road, the driveway. There is no driveway through the residences
My apologies.
for this one.
Right, but there is work that's going to be done in a residential area to connect, right, through their
Util-
easements
yes.
to go, if they're able to connect into the sewer, run that sewer line up
Right.
and connect it into the sewer system. Again, they need to provide us the information to make sure the town is okay with accepting it regarding unloads and the flows that are going to come in, and then how they're going to connect, and if they're able to get those, they have the easement, again, do they have enough area to separate per state and, health code regulations?
Which you said was 4 feet, I think, right?
I think it's a 4-foot differential between the depths. I don't know how it is width-wise.
So, Rich, did you provide that feedback? Is that in your notes about the easement for the wastewater and the utilities.
So a question about the easements in there, I did not talk about the separation, I just said they had to meet town code for that, but through this, after just thinking about it and reviewing it this way, they do need to just make sure they meet state criteria for that.
I think, to Rich's point, we're going to need some details on that, because that will, as Joe said, come up again.
Oh, yeah, yes, Mr. Chairman. I believe he actually also requested, the details for, when the road is cut, the replacement pavement, and the details for the sewer line with the cleanouts, all that stuff, yes.
I'm looking at a large generator, a Blue Star generator, on this site also.
Yes.
So, this is a permanent generator for that site also? Yeah.
Permanent.
It's at the site.
It's got wheels, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, what's it, 5 different locations for this?
We have 5 sites.
And
Before
how many
you,
generators in total?
I don't recall. We have a number of them. Yeah, I think there's 12 sites in total, in the town, right?
That's why I had asked with specificity for each site, will there be a generator or not?
Yeah. At least this one's 200 feet into the woods.
And presumably, you can put that generator so it's not visible to the adjoining residences. If I'm recalling that that generator was sort of on the same side, a little bit back from the, well, maybe it was next to the pump area, but it was, I mean, if you're putting a big building, it doesn't seem difficult to put the generator on the non-resident side of the building. Right?
Yeah, I think your point is very valid, and I think we can accommodate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll have to look, because also where, you have transfer switches in certain locations, and, there might be, infrastructure in place to accommodate that generator now. Now I'm going to disconnect it, hide it behind a building, a storm comes, I got to get a vehicle in there, get the generator, bring it, wheel it over, hook it up, and get everything put back.
There are 4 sides to that building. One of them is facing the residences. It would seem, with some good planning, one of those other 3 sides can be used for the generator.
Okay. We'll take a look, and
Yeah.
maybe we can enhance the aesthetics a little bit.
I think you should note on all of these, where there's portable generators stored, we should note it on every one of the plans.
We should be able to see it.
And with all due respect, even if that understood the generator has to be moved to go into service, it's not that big a deal. I have a lot of experience with generators. So, okay, a cam lock cable coming off and tying it to your transfer switch is not very long to do. So I don't want to say this has to stay there because it's tied in, considering, being sensitive to the people and your neighbors. We can move that generator into place, and we can connect it if and when it's needed.
What happens sometimes is 2 in the morning, power's lost, operator goes out to the site. I got one guy on call. His job is to get everything back up and running. Generator is behind the building. Now we got to call more people in.
But you're creating a new building, and a transfer switch, all you have to do is design the placement of the transfer switch so it's on the side of the building where the generator is best situated from an aesthetic point of view. It doesn't seem like it's that difficult to design the electrical work so that the transfer switch inside is in the right place.
But they're already existing. At many of the sites, they're already existing.
But you're getting a huge new building here. It doesn't compute for me. I'm sorry. 40.
We'll take a look, and we'll see whether, I think there might be alternatives where maybe we can leave them in their current location, but increase improve the aesthetics. Would that be an acceptable alternative?
Well, let's see where they're going to be.
Okay.
So, I want to go back a minute. So we have all these projects we're looking at. When a new building's up and running, what happens? I know in the last project that the previous structure stays because you need it. Do all the previous structures stay, or do some get abandoned and removed and sunset? There's some kind of shed or some kind of structure for everything that's going on today.
The trailer goes.
That's right. The trailer goes.
In this case.
In this site, the trailer goes.
Pump houses, right?
But otherwise, everything else stays.
Yeah, they all have well houses, they all have wells, they all have pump houses that the water is pumped into, that they treat, they further treat in the new system that they're putting up. Same thing the way the town operates, except we don't have the extra treatment right now. So, yeah, they all have that. They have a well, power is run to those wells, they're pumped up, put through the pump house, treated at the pump house, and put out. And we have generators next to our buildings, similar to what these guys have also.
I'm especially interested in where the neighbors, close proximity to neighbors, obviously, right? Because we knew going into tonight, a lot is architecturally, right, what the neighbors see. Okay. Any other questions on this, this one?
I don't have.
So we need some details on, I think most important is the easement, right? The wastewater utilities.
And that one does not need a variance.
Yeah, we don't.
That project does not need a variance, the last project.
Okay. I think we'd still like to see the details on this, because we know we're going to hear from some concerned neighbors, rightfully so. So I think we ought to hold this over for 2 weeks. You agree with that, right?
Yep, I agree.
Kim?
Yes, I agree.
Bob?
Yep.
And again, no impact on your schedule. If we can get Rich and Mike and the details, there's no, I mean, I don't think it's a lot of work for you to get the details. Hopefully you can get it. If you're ready, we'll be ready for you at the next meeting in 2 weeks.
That's regarding the sewer and mainly the easement details and things like that.
Yeah, those are my biggest concerns.
Okay.
Plus, the board was talking about generators and, so those are my biggest concerns. The board was talking about generators and everything else.
Buffering the generator or moving it to a place where it will be buffered.
Right, right.
And would it be possible at the next meeting to get a picture of what this structure is going to look like, a standalone picture, so we can see it without any trees in front of it?
Sure.
I mean, I think that would be helpful.
Sure.
And we do expect some involvement on the, when we have the public hearing on that one. So next is the Archer Wells location.
Yeah, but if you look at the lot or the easement, it's actually.
Mike, comments, please?
Again, same first 2.5 comments. This project needs to be reviewed very closely. The building is behind houses and therefore should be buffered to the adjacent property owners. Referral to the ECB Fire Department, you know that. Provide lot depth and lot width measurements. They're not provided on this one for some reason. A variance may be required, I'm not sure yet. Area variance is needed, 120,000 square feet is required, 19,754 provided, 100,246 variance needed.
Okay. Rich?
So this one is a little difficult site. It's off of Colton Road. Same standard comments when it comes down to landscaping. They've asked for a waiver for a landscaping plan. There are no electrical upgrades anticipated. They still may want to consider burying any kind of electrical services to the site. With this one, and this might touch on what Joe touched on earlier with people walking around the properties, they are pursuing right now either one of two driveways. It needs to be clarified as the necessary improvements, areas disturbance, clearing, grading, landscaping, associated site plans features must be identified. So they're identifying it through one of two, right? They have I don't know if they can show it on the drawings. One's coming in through Putnam County. There's an actual roadway there, but it's a forested area right now, and it would be the longer run versus one that goes down an existing driveway. That existing driveway is between two homes, and we have to go through people's homes to get there. They used to access it through what is now called Naranjano Farms. which is on the corner of Archer and 6N. That owner, that was kind of a handshake deal with the prior owners to the water district. That new owner has put up trees and has blocked access to his property. That would have been the best way to access this area. However, that is not what is on proposed here. There might be road cut details depending on which way they're accessing, so same comments as before. They must propose connection to the existing water system. They're saying that the existing connection will be used and no improvements are being made. So the biggest issue here is how they're going to access the site to maintain the system.
Thanks, Rich. And Pat?
And the issue that I had with respect to this one was, again, screening and landscaping. They've indicated there's 270 feet between the new building and the neighbor, and landscaping is unnecessary. You can see some of that from the aerial photographs and the materials they've submitted, but again, that's an issue for you to consider.
So if the board is, this was the property where they used to access and go right in this way. That's how they used to be able to access. You can see all the new trees and the tree lines that are up there. They're proposing to either cut through here, I think, you guys can confirm that, or to come back up around here and to get into the site. So that's the issue, is they haven't made that determination yet. But it's either going to go straight up and down, which is what they can do, or they're going to come around, which is through the county property. There's a piece of county property. She has a rendering there.
If you have a PDF, I'm sorry, we don't have a PDF for this, otherwise I would have projected it. Do you have a, this must be a part of your submission set. This lays out the two accesses that are being considered right now. I don't know if you have PDFs in front of you, if you could see it on your screen. Okay. I could circulate this around if that helps. Okay. Sorry about that.
Getting back to the question of lot width and lot depth, this is a very strange animal considering it's a circle. I've seen municipalities that are a circle. I've never seen a lot that's a circle. So don't really know how we would compute lot width or lot depth.
That's fine. Give me a call tomorrow and we'll do it
It's,
together.
the radius is, it's a 100-foot radius, so it's 200 feet across all the way around. But how do we determine lot width and lot depth?
Give me a call tomorrow and we'll do it.
I surely will then. Thank you.
We should give you a little more about the access.
Yeah, please.
That's been described. This little circle well site sits in a property that I think I'm correct was originally intended as the open space for the adjacent residential subdivision. And it seems that they didn't pay the taxes and the county took the property. I may be incorrect on the history, but the point is that the county owns the property that surrounds the well site, and it has access out onto Colton Road.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an option. Suez and the county are in negotiations now for Suez to purchase the county property. County's willing to sell it, should move relatively quickly. Suez would like to have that property to increase the buffer area around this little site anyway. So Suez is pursuing purchasing the county property. As has been pointed out, it has a little finger of land leading out to Colton Road. It's geographically challenging and would be expensive to build the driveway, and it would be disturbing to those neighbors. What we want to do is to go back to the original driveway. We believe we have a legal right to it. It was used for years. We think we can argue a prescriptive easement. Consequently, that's the alternative that we're going to pursue. At the same time, we're going to give the complete detailed plans that Mr. Franzetti is requesting for both access. So you can see how it would be done in either case. But we believe we will be able to use the old farm road, and that's the one we're going to try to use.
So you're going to go to court to force a neighbor to allow you to use their property. Am I understanding you correctly?
Might have to. First is discussions with him. That's an option.
How long will that take to get to figure out?
Well, remember that we're a public utility. We also have eminent domain power.
But again, I'm just thinking about your time frame and
yeah,
how long will it take?
If we have to go to it, and we really don't want to do that, we would use the big hammer and move this quickly. The other option is to connect out to Colton Road, which we don't want to do, and we can't imagine you want us to do.
What about the second option on the drawing, go in the other direction?
Well, there are two. One is the county property at the Colton Road.
Right.
The other
what you say
is
less desirable.
the other is the old driveway that has been closed off by the new buyer. That's the one that we're going to pursue.
That's shown up on the drawing.
Upper right, yeah.
They'll use the access right through there.
I got you.
So,
Is there an easement for that?
They just discussed that, I don't believe that there is an easement for that. They're calling it a
It was-
prescriptive easement.
It was one of those deals. There's a concept in law called a prescriptive easement, meaning if you've been using it for long enough, you have a right to it. So that's our first choice.
so there's a new homeowner and block the entrance you were using.
Yes,
How are you accessing it this week?
that's what the neighbors are not happy about. Is right now we're having to go overland and between the houses. It's not a good situation at all. We obviously can't do construction that way.
So, Mr. Chairman, they have an easement where their water line runs from the plant to the treatment right now up to Colton. So that's, I believe, where they're accessing between two people's homes, which is, I thought, one of the access roads that they were going to try to use. They're not. I was incorrect. They're going to either try to go further north and further north to get onto Colton. That's the Putnam County property. That's a longer run. Or try to go through here, through the prescriptive easement, and do it that way. But right now, they're only walking through people's property based on what the applicant has just indicated.
That's correct.
I go back to Bob Frankel's question is, when we know something more that we can hang our hat on and plan for. It's hard to.
Something has to be shown on the map for us to work off.
Yeah, it's hard for me for us to do anything this right
Ordinarily-
now. I don't need time and date from you right now, but
Mr. Chairman, but ordinarily you wouldn't approve an either-or option.
I can't, yeah, that's why, like I said, we meet twice a month, which is good in your benefit because the other boards usually meet once a month. I'm not looking to slow anything down. I do understand that you're improving the water quality.
We'll have a better answer for you in 2 weeks. How about that?
That'd be great.
And that's going to help me to give you the lot depth and lot width, to be honest with you, too. I thought that you had that straightened out already.
And at the end of the day, when you come, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, finish what you said.
Right.
And by the way, there's something else that particularly comes up with this. Now we're going to give you the additional design information now about using either access. But one of the things that we need to point out is that we are also needing to make independent tree cutting applications. And normally that wouldn't be an issue. We would get your approval, we'd get a building permit, that would include tree cutting. But there are state regulations that protect some species of bat. This is a new one to me, but in any case, we can only cut trees up until March 31st. And then we have to wait until next October. So we're going to be making separate tree cutting applications. We just didn't want you to be alarmed, that's all.
It's not necessarily true. You can cut trees outside of that, you just have to do what is called a bat watch, so you do have to have a team to go there. Trust me, we have to do it here in town. So you can't cut trees outside of that parameter, but you need a permit from the state. So then you're seeking a permit, and the permit means you have to hire professionals that are going to watch to make sure the night before you cut the trees that there are no bats being witnessed going in and out of the trees, and you got to flag the trees you're going to cut. You can cut those trees, and you do that as long as you need to until all the trees you need to come down.
Wow. How long do you think it takes us to get that permit?
You haven't, you're way behind the 8 ball here, so you should have started 4 years ago with the state. But you really need to come up with your tree cutting plan, and you really need to pull that together, and ask them what it's going to take. We got ours pretty quick. You're a public utility, you might be able to get it pretty quick because you're a public utility.
But it
maybe
could drive
build
you
a belfry,
batty.
Can I see the rendering again?
Okay, we're going to hold this over till you're ready, hopefully in 2 weeks, but we're going to also delay this until you get us some more details on this.
Regarding the access.
Yeah.
And the bats.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Very thorough presentation.
Good. We will see you then soon.
I think you provide a lot of
Appreciate your attention and cooperation.
I think you provide a lot of great details, and I think this, at the end of the day, we will not slow you down with this. It's for a good cause. We just need to make sure we do it right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Okay, next on the agenda, Centennial Golf Course, 185 Simpson Road, amended site plan. Folks from Centennial, thank you for your patience tonight.
Thank you. I always wanted to meet the people that go out there with the bats. I want to know what their personalities are really like. Maybe
Mike,
Joe
is that one of your
Charbonneau
side
did that.
jobs?
They're very dark.
Mike's got a lot of, Mike's got broad responsibilities.
I make sure the bad people are doing what they're supposed to.
Good evening, and thank you. It's been a long night, but my name is Richard O'Rourke. I'm a partner with the law firm of Keenan Bean in White Plains. I'm here tonight with, of course, David Leibowitz and Larry Boudreau that are with Centennial. We also have Jack Lanneman, who's Senior Division Vice President for Toll Brothers, and last but not least, who's going to be making the presentation here, is Chris Laporta, who's a professional engineer with Becerro Associates. All of you know the Centennial property, and obviously the plans are very comprehensive. There's 3 separate applications that have now been filed that would bring to fruition this project. So with that, what I'd like to do is turn over to Chris, but I don't know whether,
Yeah, I
Mr.
believe
Chairman,
the
you want to hear other
consultants
comments?
had some comments, but thank you for the introduction. And again, thanks for your patience tonight. It's been a long night. Mike?
I think you have the condo one up, or the townhouse up first. We have the golf course up first. Is that
This is
correct?
Centennial Golf Course, 185 Simpson Road.
Sorry.
Sorry?
I was getting ready to go.
Oh, no, they got it. Okay.
The applicant proposes to change the tee box and move the parking area over to land in southeast to make room for the townhouse development proposed on the corner of Fair Street and Simpson Road. The already submitted lot line, which will come up later, adjustment must be approved and filed before the amended site plans for the multifamily development and the golf course can be approved. So just for the future, the order has to be lot line first, so they have to get that approval before anything else can happen, or else the lots don't exist. We have a lot of confusion with the narratives. The narrative for the townhouse is included with the golf course. I don't know if that's on purpose or not, but it was a little bit confusing. The lot is labeled 44.2-2-2.1. I don't have that lot at all, so I don't know if you have it mislabeled or we don't have 44.2 as a tax ID number, a tax map. So just make sure we clear up all the numbers before we go anywhere further. That was on all of them, actually. So the required parking for the golf course is no longer in the town of Carmel. It's now all in the town of Southeast. We have no control of the parking spaces, number, aisle width. Technically, in our town, you're required to get a variance for parking because you have a golf course with no parking in our town. The town zoning board gives that variance because it's on an adjacent lot, but it is something that in the code it says that they're the only ones that could give that variance. I gave that section of code to you too. And the parking spaces proposed in the town of Southeast are only 9 by 18. We require 10 by 20, but that's, again, not our town, so we don't really have control of it.
Thanks, Mike. Rich?
So to follow up on what Mike was saying, with the application that came in, the narratives for both this site and the one that's on the other side of the townhomes, the drawings are virtually the same, the comments are the same, the cover letters are the same. My suggestion is that you make this one specific to the town of Carmel and what's related to it. For instance, you talk about, and on one of the drawings, there's wetlands, or you talk about there's wetlands. There's no wetlands on this specific site that I know of, all right? But if there are, you need to show them on the drawing. So referrals are required to the state DEC, Putnam County Highway, DEP, ECB, Carmel Fire Department. You're going to need permits, and this is basically for these next two same comments. Stormwater and wetlands for DEC, New York City DEP for stormwater. You're disturbing more than 2 acres. You're going to need a SWIP for that needs to identify. You need to go through that process. That's probably the longer-winded thing that you have to deal with on this grand scheme of things. ECB for wetlands, Putnam County Department of Highway and Facilities for permits. My comments have some updates to the FEAF that were there. Ultimately, on page 5, on page 5, you're going to need to provide a water and wastewater report for this project. Understanding, the comments made there, that there's sufficient capacity. You need to just prove that out for us and just work with us on that. We'll sit and talk about that. It's not something that, but it's something you need to do. A lot of the details are there, but they're not. So, you have sewer details for this particular site. There's no sewer on this site, correct? There's no water on this site.
There's existing water to the clubhouse, but we're going to be replacing it with larger water main.
But you have a boatload of details for water and sewer on a plan that doesn't need water and sewer details. That's what I'm getting. So what I'm getting at is you need to tailor this submission for this submission and tailor the other one for what it's going to have all the information. That's what I'm kind of getting at.
Gotcha. Separate the details.
Yeah, because right now it's all the same details.
So what you mean, like one for the golf course, one for the townhouses?
Right, so right now, the only piece that's in the town of Carmel there, if you're looking at that drawing, is to the right. I'll stand up.
Right there.
There's the line. So, they're talking about water and sewer details for this, but we're not putting any water. Not that I know of, there's no water or sewer going into this parking lot. So why have the details on a drawing that's not needed?
Yep, that makes total sense.
And there's no wetlands there, why are you talking about wetlands? So you need to kind of go in there and clean that up, please.
Yep, that's no problem.
Yeah, basically simplify. You're going to need this, so both sites, this is a common plan of development. So no matter that it's in the town of Southeast or the town of Carmel, the stormwater has to be addressed as a common plan of development. Over 19 acres, you got to deal with the DEP. 19 acres of disturbance ultimately. So I know you're not doing it all at once, but you're going to have to make sure you account for the stormwater features that are going to capture and treat the stormwater for the 19 acres of disturbance. So regrading, fill, traffic vehicle movements, all the same. Landscaping plan was provided. You got to add some notes. It's unclear if additional electrical utilities are being installed here or on the other plan. You should delineate the area of disturbance by orange construction fencing. Lighting spill plan should be provided. Driveway requirements are 8-inch, 3-inch, 2-inch top. Got to meet sewer code, section 120. So there's a whole bunch of other detailed comments, and again, these are the same detailed comments I'm going to make for the next, the townhome one, quite a couple of different ones, but that's about it. So there's a lot here that needs to be worked on before we move forward, so, or as we move forward.
Thank you, Rich. Good points. Pat?
So these are three separate applications, need to be distinct and separate. However, for the purposes of seeker, it's a single action. So you've just heard we've got to separate them. I'm now also telling you, look at it as one combined unified action. So the only thing we're doing tonight is starting that process. So the objective this evening is really just designate your intent to serve as lead agency. So a lot of this is just background, getting you familiar with the project. The size of pipes, we're a mile away from dealing with those particular issues yet. Overview issues with respect to where we are with respect to this element, the modification of this. As you may remember, Peter may remember this, when the project was originally approved, we paid attention to the configuration of the golf courses. So they're changing now. You're changing tee box locations. That may have been the preference of the chairman at the time.
Something about the tee box locations.
But nevertheless, that's changing. So understanding how that's changing and if it's affecting the playability of the course. So if the course is being reduced in its quality, for example, we ought to know that. If it's being expanded in its quality, that broad issue should be explained to the board. Mike mentioned the fact that the parking's being shifted now. It's in Southeast. It's not in our community anymore. Is that an issue for us? It's a deficiency from a zoning compliance perspective, but is it now further away from the clubhouse? Is that an issue for us in one way or another? So understanding that's what we really want to get a hold of on this particular component of the application. But other than that, let's just start the process this evening, and we can talk about the other ones generally as well.
Thanks, Pat.
So, why don't we give them all of our comments first and then let Rick comment?
Sure.
This way we can get through this a little bit quicker, so we don't have to bog down in details.
I think one thing you mentioned, Pat, is declaring ourselves as the lead agency, as you and I spoke about, is a good thing for you. It's a good thing for us.
Yep.
Right. As we simplify things and hopefully speed things up for you. One of the first things that come to mind, and Rich pointed this out, but I know it needs a lot more work, is you're in the, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you're in the largest water district that we have, Water District 2. And we want to make sure that we have enough water to supply your needs. Are we going to be using more water tomorrow than we are today, so to speak, when you look at the golf course compared to, when you look at a 27-hole golf course compared to an 18-hole golf course and 63 townhomes? I would think there's going to be more water usage in the future. That's something you got to work closely with Rich, and we'll have to come up to see if that's adequate or not.
And that's all part of the seeker that's going to have to go on that Pat's talking about. So it covers the traffic, it's going to cover the water, it's going to cover sewer, it's going to cover schools, right? It's going to cover any of the other environmental potential deficiencies, Indiana bats, bat watching, the whole thing.
So that's a good point. I forgot to talk about that. So the good news is we did a full environmental impact statement in 1996 or whatever it was. So we have a very detailed and significant record. And the easy task is compare and contrast. What did we look at then? What's changed since then? So that evaluation can be done. The applicant's given us a full environmental assessment form. There's been some supplemental information regarding traffic and fiscal impacts. But for example, we didn't touch on school impacts, so that's something you're going to have to supplement as we go through with this. But again, the ease of this is the comparison to the findings that were adopted 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And that applies to everything. So, Mr. Chairman, I think it would be useful then if we could just talk about the townhouse project, then the lot addition, and then the applicant can say thank you and designate lead agency.
Well, before we do that, any other comments we're going to bring up on item number 8, which is this Simpson Road, the golf course project? That's where we are right now. But I think what Pat's idea is to give you all of our information so you can help you out, right? I'll still give you plenty of time to speak tonight, but anything else we want to ask about number 8 on the agenda? Is there anything you'd like to tell us about the Centennial Golf Course, the amended site plan for Simpson Road?
Well, if I may, I think, and Pat touched on it, obviously, this thing went through an exhaustive examination. It's hard to believe, 25 years ago. And obviously, things have changed since then, and we have to update that. But I also think it's important to realize that this is a cooperative application with the town of Southeast. So obviously, we're going to be filing with the town of Southeast, and obviously that is also going to impact the examination of all of this. So, I mean, there's some issues in terms of what's, you know, what parking space size should there be. That's something that's really, I don't want to take something from the New Testament, but what's Caesar's is Caesar's or whatever. What is Southeast is Southeast, what's Carmel is Carmel, but nevertheless, we have to get along. So with that, I mean, we can give you a very brief overview of this. I don't want to do that unless you want to hear about it, but the real purpose here is just to get the ball rolling and get going, and that's very important to us.
Would we start the ball rolling with Southeast allowing the park to be there?
So that's not our call, it's Southeast's call, so.
No, but I'm saying that, but before we go forward with anything.
So here's the answer to that is Seeker will be the umbrella to coordinate both municipalities' review of this. So that's why I'm suggesting let's us designate that tonight. So we're running the show, not Southeast, and then they will be under our sort of control through the Seeker, you being lead agency. You'll be driving the bus.
Rick, I wasn't implying that you needed a variance for the parking. That's not our town, so
No,
you
no.
need a variance because the parking is not in our town. That's the only thing that I was saying.
And so we might want to quickly go through, all right, so we just touched on the 8th item on the agenda that I mentioned. We can touch on the 9th and the 10th to give you feedback of what we think, and then you can give us an overview of the, because I assume your overview is not just of 8, 9, or 10, it's of the entire project.
Precisely.
So-
And I understand the necessity of breaking it into component parts, but obviously, from our perspective, it's one development, and from your perspective, it is. And I mean, it's kind of fascinating. I bet most people don't even realize that where that town line is, because it you know, bisects the entire project. We had a similar situation many years ago when I was town attorney in Southeast with Peach Lake, and we needed special legislation because half the lake was in Westchester, half of it was in Putnam, half of it was in the town of North Salem, and the other half was in the town of Southeast. That was a mess, but fortunately, we got through it. So,
So Rick, let me do this then. So from a logistics point of view, I think we're closed on item 8. Okay.
okay,
We're going to open up now 9 Centennial Golf Townhomes.
okay.
Then we're going to close on that. 10, and then I'm going to ask you to give us the overview of the entire project.
Okay.
So Mike, you had some comments on 9?
They're proposing a 63-unit townhouse development with clubhouse and pool on the corner of Fair Street and Simpson Road. The lot line adjustment, same comment, has to be done before this can get approved. Again, the labeling of the lots, we have to go over the numbers because the numbering system is off. Provide floor plans and elevations. How do you calculate parking? Will there be central garbage, central mail? County Highway Department and Carmel Fire Department should comment on the new driveway coming out to Fair Street. Project needs to be referred to the ECB for comments. Which code section are you using for this development? Cluster or multifamily? You didn't write down on there which one it was that you were using. I assume the multifamily. That's what it looked like to me, but provide a recreation calculation table, 300 square feet per dwelling unit are required. I didn't see anything on there.
Thanks, Mike. Rich?
You know, virtually the same comments. There's DEC wetlands on that property. They need to be verified, or at least there's documentation that the DEC has reviewed them and signed off on them, if they've been flagged. They are, if you're looking at the townhomes right on Fair Street, abutting the buffer zone right there. So that would be a concern. just so, again, not noted in my thing, but again, as we move forward, I know that we have a dry hydrant over there, we have drainage over there, so none of that's really identified on the drawings, but so that's important stuff, like that dry hydrant is there, are you gonna relocate it, for the fire department? So, other than that, it's, again, the same set of comments. We need to start this process going. There's a lot of details that are still needed for this, that still need to be reviewed. Again, the big thing that they have to worry about is the fact that there is a DEP stormwater pollution prevention plan that's needed, and you haven't started that soon enough when you're dealing with the DEP. So it was just meant to be a joke about the DEP, so.
Thank you. And Pat?
So a host of sort of general planning issues about details on the plan, but a couple of fundamental things with respect to the design. So if you look at the plan, there's two groups of homes. The main group is accessed from the main driveway into the club, and then there's now a second group that's accessed off Fair Street. Yep. So ideally, an objective would be a single curb cut serving the development. In this case, we've got now a new set of curb cuts onto Fair Street. So the question becomes, the reason that's been done is because there's a big old wetland that runs down the middle of the site. So they've done a very good job of avoiding encroachments into that area. The question simply is, how important or how ecologically significant is that wetland, and is a trade-off possible that would basically rotate those three buildings on a hinge, bring them back down into the main section of homes, eliminate the connection to Fair Street. It would require encroachments into the wetland, but that's a trade-off if it's a poor functioning wetland, if it's of less significant environmental quality. Is that a better trade-off than new curb cuts on Fair Street and the second group of buildings? So it's a concept. I'm sure Larry's thought about that. I'm sure there's thought into this. But if it was simply, we just tried to stay away from the wetlands, and that was the reason, I'm suggesting let's look deeper into that reason, and if that is what needs to be done, fine. But again, it's just a thought. One other design issue with respect to this is the clubhouse is located at the end of the first cul-de-sac. And both of those groups of buildings have emergency connections out to the roads. That's not an access way, it's an emergency connection. So the clubhouse is at the end of a roadway. Ordinarily, the clubhouses are sort of in the middle of the development, not at the end of the development. And as you all know, we've had lots and lots of issues with the HOAs with those facilities once the developers are gone. So again, is that the best spot for the clubhouse and those improvements? And again, my thought on that one is I can hear the HOA saying, let's open up that emergency access to provide more convenience for that clubhouse because we rent it out for bar mitzvahs on the weekends and it's an easier thing for people to get there. That's a concern for us. So again, a thought from the planning principles behind this and why it was done that way, and I'm sure the applicant has a reason, but we're just raising the question to go through the process of verifying things. This is now a multifamily development pursuant to our provisions of the code. They meet virtually all of those criteria with what Mike mentioned earlier, the exception of the recreational open space. So if you remember from Pulte and so forth, there's a square footage that's required. It's fairly significant. The clubhouse is only a couple of thousand square feet. I think the number that's required here is 18,000 or something like that. Yeah, it's a relatively big number. So if you remember Pulte, the length of a trail counted toward that number. So I don't know if they're counting the golf course, if there are elements that they can include in that, but right now they would be deficient. That's a variance. So clarification necessary for that. Those are the big sort of planning issues at 30,000 feet.
And just one other thing, it's unclear if any of those roads are going to be dedicated to the town of Carmel, and that's something that still needs to be talked about and reviewed, and would have to go to our highway superintendent.
We're not planning.
That's wonderful to hear. Make sure it gets documented every which way but Sunday.
How big is that clubhouse going to be that Pat just mentioned?
Basically there,
20,
1,500.
The plan shows it a little bit bigger.
2,400. Actually, plus or minus 2,400. Then there's the pool, and there's pedestrian access from these 12 over to the amenity area. So we'll demonstrate the record.
Your requirement in this case is $18,900.
For recreation?
We're gonna have to have more.
Actually, to Pat's point earlier, might as well ask the question now. Why is the clubhouse and the pool over there closer to the road, not to the center of the development?
Well, it's there for a number of reasons. One, I think that it fits in there staying out of the 100-foot wetland buffer. Two, it's the development, these houses, it's all within a fairly walkable distance, I'd say less than a quarter mile. So it's, even though it's not in a central location to the development, it's certainly accessible to the development. To everybody, no matter where their house is. It also is, including the ones on Fair Street, I assume you were pointing at.
All right, so there's no proposed walkways on Fair Street because there's a lot of traffic there. It's not on Fair Street, right? It's okay.
No, I was on.
I mean, that's a fairly busy road. So is John Simpson, for that matter.
On Fair Street putting up the sign.
I'm thank God you didn't get run over.
How would the residents in those three buildings get down to the pool?
Right here.
Inside, within the, okay.
Do we need to
Pat,
bring
who
up?
would make the determination on the health of the wetland that you were talking about?
So it's the specialists, so they brought in some specialists, we would bring in a specialist to review this as well. The fact that this is also a state and federally regulated wetland goes beyond our, just Rich's pay grade, DCB as well. So it's an interesting concept, and here's the issue with respect to that. If it's a crappy wetland, if it's a poor quality wetland, by doing something like allowing this to occur, as I've suggested, they can mitigate that by improving the quality of the wetland, rebuilding it, making it a functional wetland that's really ecologically significant. So I don't know what we're dealing with. It may be pristine and wonderful, keep away, or it may be garbagey and full of shopping carts and tires. So that, and I don't, speaking, but that's the question. But we would need, this is a significant ecological issue, requires specialists to look at it.
And the other thing is I'll say it again, the DEP will have their finger in that wetland also, not only stormwater. They'll be worried about intermittent streams and any of the water that flows through there. So they will also have a say in regards to the ecological significance of that wetlands and any streams that run adjacent or near it or part of it. So just, yeah, right, so.
The update on the wetland, the state has been out here. They've accepted the line. The map has been sent to them to sign. So that's what it's
Also, just provide that ultimately.
Also, regarding the wetlands, we are proposing some stormwater management in the wetland buffer. So we will be engaging the New York State DEC for permitting for that. We do have a wetland biologist on our team, so when we get into our pre-application meeting with them, we can certainly discuss all of these things.
And Chris, you engaged DEP, right?
Yeah, and we did, since June, we've been talking to the DEP. So we did show them the plan. This plan, obviously, before we got here, we were working on it for a long time to get a feasible plan and looking into the environmental sensitivity, performing some of these studies that were in our initial application here. So we've actually had 2 pre-application meetings with the DEP and met them on site for soil testing to do some deep pits, and the they seemed generally okay with what we were proposing in the buffer, because the buffer area right now is a practice area, so it's a maintained lawn, and what we're doing, putting stormwater management in there, we'll be putting plantings and stuff that are actually more appropriate for a wetland buffer.
Yeah, but just as you all know, the DEP has a different perspective than the DEC does, and frankly, the Army Corps. So corralling all the cats is the challenge here. And I get it, the easy thing is just let's not touch it. But again, let's think about it.
And the only other thing I will add is, are there going to be lawns, manicured lawns in this area, and how are they going to be irrigated? I would recommend that you do not use the water district supply water for that. So as a matter of fact, that's going to be part of the requirement. I'm telling you that right now. No irrigation connected to the municipal water supply.
The landscape will
That's fine. Make sure that that's noted, shown on the drawings, how that's going to be done. There has to be a hard disconnect to make sure that they're not touching the municipal water. I mean, that's important.
Can you describe what kind of townhomes you're going to build? Just an overview of what the townhomes you propose will be.
Sure. So, Jack Landman with Toll Brothers. The townhomes that are shown on the, I'll call it the main portion of the property in the vicinity of the clubhouse and that small cul-de-sac near the existing clubhouse, those are envisioned to be 2-car garage townhomes with second floor master bedrooms, 3 bedrooms total. The townhomes that pull off of Fair Street are first floor master bedrooms. They're a bigger footprint to allow for that. They're also 3 bedrooms, but they have that larger footprint for the first floor master bedroom and a 2-car garage as well. So all of them are between 3 and 5 per building, 2 stories.
3 and 5, what? 3
Units per building, sorry.
How many square feet per unit roughly?
I believe they range from about 2,000 to 2,500, give or take.
And the 2 stories would be 2 stories over the garage, not 3 stories over the garage.
2 stories total.
Garage and then 2 stories.
The garage is part of the first story.
Oh, okay, got it.
So,
So the front is garage, the back would be whatever, living room, and then upstairs is, got it. Perfect.
This is,
It's a different building code when you go the other way, that's why I asked the question.
Do we need to talk about an architectural review, or is that later?
So we certainly will, but that's somewhat down the road.
Yeah.
The good news is we're dealing with all those, so they have a very predictable product that you're probably familiar with. It's not as though we're dealing with an unknown entity.
But I guess, do we need to engage our architectural expert? That's the question.
Probably, but yeah.
Okay. Later on.
Be very supportive of what
Okay.
Any other questions for the townhome part of this project? Okay.
How much exterior parking will there be besides the actual garages? Could they put 2 cars in front of the garages on each lot?
yeah, there's extra,
That's fine. I just want to make sure that it's not just 2 and then you pull right out and there's nowhere to put a guest, you know.
right, so there's 3 here, there's 7 here, 3 here, 2 here, 2 here.
Yeah,
With the driveways.
in addition to each unit having a garage, the driveways are long enough to park a vehicle, and then there's some visitor parking along the roadways.
That's important. Yeah, that's very important. We have had problems with other developments. They don't have enough extra parking, we'll call it.
Okay, and last on the agenda tonight, Centennial Golf Course, lot line adjustment. Mike?
Same comment about the tax map numbers. We'll go over that afterwards. Lot line adjustment law only allows for the transfer of 20% or 20,000 square feet of lot area. This submission does not comply, variance required from the ZBA. This type of project is not really the intent of our lot line adjustment. It was more to fix a swing set on a neighbor's property and things of that nature, but it's not written that way. But if they get the variance, they would be okay. And before anything is referred to ZBA, all tax ID numbers need to be corrected on the plat and verified. We need to make sure we get that straight so that we're issuing to the right lot for the right variance.
Thank you. And Rich?
So the comments I have are just basically directly out of the code, section 156. Copies of restrictions or easements should be provided. Signature block for chairman to endorse approved plat should be there. Key map at a scale of 800, showing in relation to the subdivided to the entire tract. Location of setback lines in the setback envelope, I don't know if I saw them. Existing and proposed covenants, deeds or restrictions, location, composition, approximate size of monuments. Signature block, I have that in there twice, sorry, and label old and new property lines. So just, again, just go into 15661, update the drawing, and that's, for engineering, that's what I need for lot line adjustment.
And you'll get all these comments that you haven't already.
Yeah, so they will be written
Rose will send?
Yeah, Rose will forward them to you. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Pat, so the variance is needed for this, as Mike indicated, our lot line adjustment law really never envisioned something like this, but they're not creating a new lot, so it's not a subdivision, so this is what would apply. The only issue with respect to this relates to the fact that the lot line adjustment is arbitrary. Where those lines are going, they're not following a municipal boundary or a river. They've just selected this location. So if that goes back to my prior comment of why the design is in such a manner, the proposed property line shouldn't be one of those factors. If by moving the lot line they can achieve a better design, there's nothing preventing them from doing that. So that's my point about the lot line adjustment. It's not based on anything other than their preference. So just bear that in mind when you think of layout, configuration, and so forth.
Thank you.
And so just to be clear, I think when Rick submitted, he said we're clear with variances. So there's at least 3 variances that we've talked about tonight that would be necessary. The lot line, the percentage, the parking in southeast, and the potential open space, unless you've addressed that. So three problems to deal with.
Okay. Thank you, Pat.
And Pat, just forgive me, but I just want to, what you're saying is the variance is required simply because we don't have any parking in Carmel for the golf course.
Correct.
Yeah, all right, well,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It's lawyers, Rick. What can I say?
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
It says in the code that parking can be on an adjacent lot, provided it's in common ownership or this, but it's only to be given by the zoning board of appeals.
So whether it's a
written in the code
variance
that
or
way,
a
it's not
waiver.
an opinion.
Any other comments to add from the board on the lot line adjustment? Okay, if not, I think we're closing that item, Rick, and feel free to give us the overview. I wanted to cover everything on the agenda.
I got it.
And then anything that we didn't discuss already, you'd like to highlight or overview?
Is there anything else you want?
Excuse me. I think that we, segmented into a lot of pieces of the overview here.
I'm sure, yeah, that's why I asked.
Really, I just want to say, yeah, we've worked a long time to put this layout together. The 100-foot setback, it's a perimeter setback, so we have a really nice buffer around this project. On the north side, it's abutting Fair Street. On the east side, John Simpson, and then all the other, the rest of the perimeter is adjacent to the golf course. So, we'll have a great landscape buffer to the surrounding community. We're proposing to put a nice berm on John Simpson, which will also provide, the landscaping, and the berm will provide sound buffering for our development. So, I think we did get most of the points here. I do want to mention, I did mean to continue that sidewalk on the road in front of the townhouses on the lower road there. There was supposed to be a sidewalk on one side of the road. That was an oversight, but we are sensitive to pedestrian connectivity around this development, and we want everyone to be able to safely access the clubhouse and other amenities. We will do a calculation on the areas to include the clubhouse, the pool, the walking areas, and take off the recreational area, take a hard look at the golf course, see what else, we could use if needed to meet those requirements and not need a variance in that regard.
Mr. Chairman, just one thing might be helpful is we've been talking with the applicant for months about this, and we understand where this is coming from, but why are you doing this? So you've never had that, you've never presented that. So Larry, you could just provide that overview of why this is coming up.
Well, hey, just before I get there, your question on quality on the golf. So the first hole on Lakes, if you know Centennial, that's a par 5. What changes, we changed that to a par 4, a little less than 300 yards. I mean, that's bad, 400 yards. So the quality, David and I and Peter worked on where to put those tees, and the pro went out there to make sure we'd maintain the quality. Why were we doing it? This journey started back in 2018 when we were looking at a solution, a long-term solution to sustain the golf, because golf and the usage going down and the cost of maintenance goes up, and so the two collide, and it's difficult to run a successful business. So we pitched it to Toll, and they were interested. And again, the journey started back in 2018, and we kept moving forward, and here we are today. We're very excited to be here in front of you. We've had a lot of offline meetings, and the board has been helpful to meet with us, and Pat and Rich and Mike, very helpful, and we're finally here, at this point to get this going. So thank you.
So I think, Mr. Chairman, tonight you can designate your.
Yeah, I think that'll help all of us on this project, so.
And just to be clear, there are a lot of agencies involved, so we want to be the guys running the show.
So we will declare ourselves the lead agency for this project, work closely with you.
Okay.
You have a lot of comments that Rose will send out to you. If you don't hear from Rose in a couple days, give her a call, or feel free to follow up tomorrow with her if you like.
And she's back in the office on Monday, so she'll send them out on Monday. I'll send an email.
They're closed on Monday.
We'll send it out on Tuesday. Thank you for reminding me.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I think
Thank you.
that,
Good luck.
yeah, there's a lot
Craig, you need
to it.
a
but
motion
And we'll
for
work
the-
through it
Oh,
with you.
we need a motion to declare the lead agency.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to declare the Planning Board of the Town of Carmel as lead agency.
A second?
All in favor?
Wrong way.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thanks for your patience.
Take care.
We had minutes of, Rose distributed minutes of December 9th. Did anyone get a chance to review them? Do we have a motion to approve them?
I think I did. Hold on. Yeah, I believe I have reviewed them. I made some minor comments. I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. 9:25.